Each and every one of us and everybody else in the world are all on a path to expand and elevate their spiritual self. Now, there's a whole lot of people that have no clue that that's what they're doing. But from the moment we're conceived to the moment we die in this physical body is a journey to get back to spiritual, to get back to our truth. I feel very blessed that I figured this out before I died, because it's changing what I experience here in the third dimensional, the physical world. I can experience the spiritual self now. I do not have to wait until the end. Otherwise, what's the use of being here? The spiritual experience of this world is incredible. Now is a perfect time to realize that with spring. I posted a few pictures up yesterday. Go walk around out here, watch the mud, because it's still kind of muddy, but the trees are starting to blossom. The Bradford pear is just full of blooms. The peach trees and the pear trees out in the orchard are starting to, those little beautiful orange blossoms are trying to come out. The daffodils are up. I don't know what all these other plants are out here, but they're going to be blossoming soon. Irises, there you go. I know that those woods are going to have some blossoms happening out there. It's happening all around us. This, for me, is a way that I connect with spiritual. It's not the only way, but it is one of the ways. And all I have to do is change the way I look, change the way I see. When I look at the woods, instead of seeing woods, I can actually see God's work. I can see the beauty. I can see deeper than just a bunch of trees out there that would serve as firewood someday when they fall over. That takes things beyond physical living. Now, one way that we can elevate that is to consciously go through life. Consciously know that everything that we run into is a spiritual being, a spiritual work, a spiritual life. Even if they don't see it. When we run into other people, even if they don't see it, I know that they're there. I know that that is a spiritual being, and I can connect with that part of them. And when I do that, I can release the stuff that I may not like on the human level. Look at things differently. See it from your spiritual self into their spiritual self. Look at these trees differently. Look at everything differently. That's the key for me to go through life in a spiritual way. Now, the way of mastery, which we have been studying for the past 30 weeks, I think is what it's been, is it offers the 4 keys to spiritual living. And it's basically saying what I just said, but it goes on a much deeper level, and it says it's so much better. So I wanted to talk about that this morning as well. The 4 keys to expanding your spiritual life are desire, intention, allow, and surrender. Some of that sounds scary, especially that surrender, but we'll get to that in a minute. Desire. Now, I don't know what your upbringing was. My upbringing was that a desire was something sinful, because that means that you are wishing for something that God did not put into your life. Now, that's kind of a messed up way of looking at it, but that's what I was taught. So when I first saw desire, not in this context, but in another one similar to this, it was like, really? I had to relearn what that meant. Desire simply is your spirituality, your spiritual self saying, this is something we can go look at. This is something we can go after. It is a heartfelt want. And if you're coming from your heart, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That is something that you need to pay attention to. I don't like to use the word need very often, but I will use it here. If you have a spiritual push, a heart want, it's something you need to tune into. And it can be about anything. Today we're talking about the spiritual path. we all have that desire, that spiritual push, that heart want to expand and elevate our spiritual living. Every one of us. Even those that say they don't do. Okay? So desire, pay attention to that, tune into that, figure out what that is, love it, allow it to be there. And then set your intentions to get there. Now, an intention and a goal are different things. I wrote a book about goal reaching, and I still stand by that. If you want to set a goal and go after it, I still stand by what I wrote in that book. However, when you go for goals, you set yourself up for a fail or succeed scenario. It's very strict. You don't have a lot of flexibility. You can try to add it in there, but you still have a very strict path that you must follow. And the goal is going to look like this, and if you land over here and it looks a little bit different, you kind of failed. Okay? An intention is to set, this is what I'm going to feel when I get here. This is what it's going to look like, but it may be even better. This is what it's going to be like to experience that and more. An intention gives you much more flexibility. If you take a step and it goes in a direction away from your intention, that is not a failure. That is a lesson that you can learn, and you can apply that and get right back on track, or you can find a whole new way to get there. But intentions they're milestones. They're not end results. You know, my intention is to elevate and expand my spiritual living, my spiritual practices. But I'm going to have multiple intentions in there that help guide me that way. An intention to me is like a sail on a really nice yacht. You know, my life is really pretty cool, and it's a pretty cool place to be. But if I don't set my sails, I'm going to bob around on the ocean, and I'm going to hope that I end up where I want to go before a storm comes along and blows me clean out of the way. If I want to get to where I want to go, I need to set my sails. Now, if life throws a storm at me, I can use those sails to veer around it, to go through it in a safe way. I can drop them. I can do whatever I need to do. I've got choices. And that's what intentions do for us. When we have intentions, we set milestones. When we have milestones, we can see options, and we can see how we can look at this a little differently. Intentions also allow us to look at this, and we can have this experience, and we can check in. Did that move me closer to my end result? Or did it move me away from it? Even if it moved me away from it, what can I take from it? So the intention is a very flexible, forgiving, unique way to follow your journey to whatever your main intention happens to be. The next one is allow. The next key is to allow. This one's, and I know I've told this story before, I've got to tell it again because allowing is just like this guy. There's the guy that's hanging on the buoy out in the ocean. His boat sank, and he was able to swim to the buoy, and he's just hanging on. And a little dinghy comes by, and he says, "Hey, hop in, I'll take you over here to the marina." And the guy says, "No, God's going to save me." And so the dinghy goes off, and then here comes a little pontoon boat full of all these people on there. They're having the grandest party of all times. "Come on over, join the party, and we'll keep you. You can just have fun while we get back to safety." "No, God's going to save me." And then the cruise line comes by and says, "We've got all these fabulous buffets. We've got a room you can sleep in. We'll keep you safe till we get you back." "No, God's going to save me." A merchant ship comes by, a Navy destroyer, Coast Guard cutters. They all come by and try to save him. Eventually, he just tires out. Knowing that God's going to save him, he turned all of those down. He tires out, slips off, drowns, gets to heaven. "I know that I prayed. I know that I trusted you. Did I not pray right? Did I make a mistake?" And God said, "I sent you a dinghy, a pontoon boat, a cruise line. I sent you all these ships." He was looking for that miracle where all of a sudden it was poof, he was on dry land. How many times do we do that to ourselves? We have an idea of what it's going to look like, and we totally miss an opportunity to get exactly what we wanted because it didn't look the same way.
Just make up your mind
Right. Yeah, we do. We make up our mind, this is the way it's going to be. We get set that this is what it's got to look like, or it's not right.
Or we can't see it at all.
Just can't see it at all, yeah. Yeah. So allowing is simply opening yourself to see options. It's allowing things to come into your life. It's allowing yourself to be flexible enough to see that there are different ways. You know, I love this poster that's up here. It talks about all of the different ways to understand, to meet, to know God. You know, there are many ways to get to know that connection that you have with God. And not one of them is right until you find one that works for you. Well, when you are setting your intentions, when you have a desire, when you set your intentions to have that spiritual life, to expand and elevate that spiritual life, you've got to allow it in at some point. So go easy on yourself. It really is a much easier journey when you allow options to come in. Now, I'm not saying look at options so that you can settle for less. That's not what this is about. I'm not talking about settling or bringing something in that's not exactly what you want. Okay? Have your picture of what it's going to feel like, what it's going to be like, what you're going to experience when you elevate and expand your spiritual life, and then let options come in that might be different than what you had in mind, that will still get you to that ultimate place. It's not about sacrificing. You know, I don't want you to sacrifice your vision of what that is for you. That's not what I'm saying here. What I am saying is allow different ways to come in. We might have the idea, for instance, that in order for me to elevate and expand my life, I have to meditate 30 minutes every day. I might get more connection, spiritual connection on a 15-minute walk through the woods than that 30-minute meditation. But if I take that 15-minute walk through the woods without allowing that, I'm going to miss it. Allow yourself to experience your journey, your path. If it works for you, perfect. Let that be something you add to your life. You know, add a 15-minute walk. You might have to let go of something else, which is what we'll talk about in the next key. But if it works for you, use it. Don't get so stuck that you have to do it this way. The final step is surrender. This one is often looked at negatively because the armies that are losing surrender. The fighter in the ring that is beat unmercifully surrenders. Surrender is looked at as, I have failed, it's time to give up. I have not done what I set out to do, I've got to forfeit. That's not what surrender is all about. That's one part of it, but that's not what it's all about. What we're talking about here in surrender is to release something that's not working for you. If, for instance, I'm doing the meditation every day and it's not bringing me closer to my spiritual practice, my spiritual living, if it's just going through the motions, it might be time for me to surrender that and take something else. That walk through the woods, for instance. Surrender is all about, if it does not work for you, if it's not elevating and expanding your life, surrender it. Let it go. If you have a handful of trash and you want to pick up that diamond, you've got two choices. You can let the diamond sit there, or you can dump the trash and pick up the diamond. You're not going to be able to do both. So you have to surrender something, but you get to choose what it is. You choose what you surrender. So desire, and it's a beautiful thing. You simply hear your heart. Feel that spiritual push. What is it driving you to do? We know that we want a stronger, more elevated, more expanded spiritual practice, a spiritual life. Your heart's going to speak to you on what that is. Get clear on that. Then set your intentions around it. Set an intention to move from where you are to where you ultimately want to be. And with that intention, be flexible, because it's going to end up being, you think it's going to be here, it's going to be way over there, because it's going to be so much more when you intend to live from your spiritual life and let that grow, let that elevate, let that expand. Then allow it to happen. When you get to that one spot that you had visioned, allow you to move further if you want. You know, some of us stop. I got here, yay! Oh man, if I'd have gone 10 more miles, that would have been beautiful. You know, it's not to say this is bad. If there's more, allow it. And then surrender. Surrender is a beautiful, beautiful thing. When we surrender, we also surrender our limiting beliefs. We surrender anything that does not serve us. We surrender anything that tells us we're not good enough. We surrender any illusion of not being one with God. We surrender any illusion of not being able to get exactly what it is that we have set our intentions on. Desire, intend, allow, surrender. It's a pretty good path. And you can use that for anything you go after, not just spiritual stuff. Thanks.